Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to class. This is the first video lecture in the course, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then we are going to get right into the first chapter. Just a couple of things real quick. As I mentioned in my email, this class is going to move pretty fast. We've got a lot of ground to cover, and I want to make sure that everyone manages their time properly and gets assignments completed and turned in on time. A couple of notes. You may hear some stuff going on in the background when I record these videos, which would be once a week on Monday nights. I'll try to make sure and send everybody messages about it so you can join live if you want to. But not to get too personal, but I have an adult son with autism. I actually have two adult sons with autism, and you may hear him in the background. And on occasion, he may wander in here during recording to say hello, despite best efforts of those to keep him out while I'm doing this. But just want to let you know if you hear stuff going on in the background, that's what it is. I am James Eric Neuendorp. I have been in the professional and collegiate and amateur sport management and marketing industry for about 30 years. I have a company called Beam Marketing Group, and I've worked in Major League Soccer and the WNBA and the Canadian Premier League and many different leagues over the course of my career, including professional hockey and baseball. Worked for the Tulsa Drillers for about 3 years before moving on to take a position with a professional soccer team in Canada over COVID, which was an interesting story. I can share it some other time. Maybe I will as we go through these lectures. So I also teach at the University of Tulsa, where I've been doing that for a few years. Have taught at Northeastern in the past as well. Coming back this spring semester after a couple of years off doing other things. I'm currently doing a consulting job for a new league, a new baseball league, a new team in East Texas. And so I keep very, very busy, which is why it's important to me that you guys respect my time, respect your own time, and get things turned in on time because I cannot afford to get behind with your assignments with students at the University of Tulsa and with my career and other obligations and responsibilities. So I would appreciate you if you just follow those guidelines, and if something's due, get it done and turned in. And that will make this go quick as it will. Anyway, the best way to reach me is through my NSU email address or my cell phone number, and that is on the syllabus. I'd ask if you text me, which you're welcome to do at any time. Just identify yourself, tell me what class you're in, what your name is, and any questions that you have about what we're going to do. This course is going to cover lots of topics in terms of sport marketing, sport management, sport communication. Some of those of you are in this class, I think maybe all of you have had to have prerequisite courses in marketing. So some of the stuff we may cover, you may remember or have heard before. But if you have, that's fine. It's good. This will be how it maybe relates to sport management, sport industry, particularly as opposed to any other kind of industry. So, I teach from my experience as not only as a adjunct professor, but also working in the my practical capacities in my career. So you'll get a lot of stuff from me that I've learned from experience on the job, doing the job, managing teams throughout the course of my career. So once again, if you have any questions, just always feel free to email me or text me. Okay. And with that, I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to pull up the slides of the first chapter, which is Principles of Sport Marketing and Marketing Principles in Sport. Let me share my screen here real quickly. And we will find the slideshow. What is sport marketing? Well, first of all, let's talk about what marketing is. If we were in class, I'd ask you, and I'd have various different answers. But marketing, really, and the job of a marketer, a marketing manager, a chief marketing officer, is really doing nothing more than creating demand, right? Um, Marketers are a support portion of what sales and revenue generation or business development is. And so what marketers try to do is create ways to create demand for what? Products, goods, services to either consumers, us, or businesses. And that's really all you're trying to do. Simple economics, ideally, if you can create demand for something, people are more likely to want to purchase it, right? So how do we create demand? How do sport marketers create demand? We'll talk about what that is, but ideally what you're trying to do is create demand for your, let's say if you're a professional sports team, of course you try to create demand for people to come to your games, into your stadium or to your arena. You may try to create demand for them to want to watch you on television or a podcast or a streaming game. We think in terms of professional sports, where I talk about sport organizations, you'll hear me refer to a lot. It's not just professional sport, but it could be an event, a 5K race or a community sporting event, anything that's sport organization. We're all trying to create demand. Why? Right? We all want an audience, right? Sports teams exist for providing the community with sport entertainment. And so ideally, if you're doing it and doing it right, you are making people happy, right? You're creating memories, you are improving the quality of people's lives. And so the more people you can come and that have a great experience at your event or your game, the more of that you can do. That's what your ultimate purpose is. So what you're trying to create demand for is something that people are interested in to get their form of entertainment, right? To spend their discretionary income, hard-earned discretionary income to come participate or watch what you're promoting. And through that, you generate revenue, right? Ideally through many means, which we'll discuss as we go through here. So, but before you can, of course, give them messages to try to create that demand to purchase or invest in your product or service, you got to know who you're going after, right? I'm sure you've heard these terms before: target market, target audiences. And you got to make sure whatever you're selling, whatever sport organization you're selling, is reaching that right target audience. I've mentioned to other classes in the past that, and we're going to talk about the marketing mix here in a little bit, but you've got to be able to, of course, identify who you think is going to be interested in your product. Then you have to come up with the messages. You got to figure out your delivery channels and mechanisms to get to that audience. Then if you've done your job as a marketer, you've created some demand and they've taken some action. They've decided, us or consumers have decided to take some action, and perhaps then they purchase a product or decide to come to a game or a service, or watch something on television. Then what happens? Well, that's where the real work comes as we as sport managers and marketers do, is then we have to deliver on what it is we said we created demand for. So, if you're an equipment company, you've created demand, you've reached the right target audience, and you've created demand for a shoe or a new hoodie or something like that. And somebody says, great, I'm going to invest in those shoes and that hoodie. And then they buy it and it fails, falls apart, does not comfortable, doesn't fit right. Then it's a lot harder, of course, to create demand the next time for repurchasing. And so there's a cycle there, and you have to have all of those in place. And any of those gears that are not working properly could be detrimental. You may have the greatest message in the world, and you may have the right methods to know how to reach that target audience, and you've got them to take action, and they've purchased something, and your product's no good, and therefore those other two things don't matter. Again, we're going to touch on that here in a little bit when we get to the marketing mix. But so that's what a marketer is. That's what a sport marketer does, creating demand. That's what all marketers do. Okay. Now, we talk a little bit of the history of sport marketing, where it came from. A gentleman named Mark McCormick started IMG in the 1960s, and it's generally considered the first professional organized sport marketing firm. And he, did that with the rise of television audience and sports being on television, in particular around a gentleman named Arnold Palmer, who is deceased of late, but was, of course, a wonderful professional golfer for many years. And Mark McCormick saw that he had star power, right? You may have heard Arnie's Army. People used to follow him around the golf course, watch him on television. He was sort of the first superstar of sport in that sport specifically in the 60s. And Mark sort of built his agency around that. IMG is still something that exists today. And Mark McCormick is a pioneer in sort of doing this, which leads us to where we are today, academic pursuits of the history of sport marketing and what sport marketing is. And so he's got an international company, and there's just a monster. You can look them up sometime. But what does his agency do? What do most sports agencies do? Sport marketing agent, broadcasting, sponsorships, promotional rights, strategies, licensing, do research. They represent athletes. They represent brands. So I do a little bit of that as well. And so that's where some of the history come from and why we got here, because it wasn't always a thing. You may assume that sport marketing's been around forever, but it hasn't. Somebody had to start it, and it was Mark. And relatedly, in sport broadcasting, what do we call that? Well, of course, we all know that when you watch a game on television, or you stream it on your computer, or you watch it on your device, or you might listen to something on sport or satellite radio or terrestrial radio, it all had to come from somewhere. And what it is that let's take the NFL. They have games. The NCAA has games that they want to put on. Well, because we fans are an audience that people are trying to reach. We are a target audience, those of us that like sports. Of course, sport marketing came along, sport broadcasting came along and said, look, that's an audience we want to deliver on our medium, which it's television and radio. It started out television and radio, then television. And therefore, people have to pay broadcast rights in order to put that programming on their particular channel. That's true for Hulu. That's true for CBS, NBC, and ESPN. All of these have to pay rights to broadcast games and events on their networks, and they pay millions and billions of dollars for the rights to do that. Well, where did that start? Roone Arledge was with ABC, and he realized that, hey, how can we put sports programming, sports broadcasting in prime time? So he was sort of the pioneer that thought about, let's bring Monday Night Football along, something that we've all grown up to and we're used to, because he knew sports could deliver a great audience to his television viewer. Now, that was back when there was only 3 or 4 networks, and programming was you had a lot less choices for programming. But he realized that we need to deliver that kind of audience, and let's combine football and the people's love of football in prime time with a sense of entertainment, and made a difference in terms of the crew that they hired and things like that. So because he knew that if he was going to grow an audience and get a broader audience, it had to be more than just football heads, football diehards. And so he was sort of the first to kind of pioneer that concept. Sports entertainment, something that we take for granted today, something that of course grew and is proliferated through ESPN and all kinds of sports programming now that is 24/7 and international. So again, a little bit of the history here, how it started. Sports sponsorship, which we'll cover later in this course in a different chapter, is of course the rights that sponsors, brands pay to sport events, sport organizations to reach that audience, right? So, the concept of marketing of sports and marketing through sports. And we want to talk about what that is, right? So marketing of sport would be a team or an event or a good, manufactured good, piece of apparel, the company marketing its own products being games, if you're a sports team, to the audience to try to get them as a consumer to take action, to do something for them. Again, come to a game, watch a game on TV, buy some merchandise, right? And so the sport organizations themselves are out there trying to attract an audience, create demand for what they do. Now, once they've done that and they're popular and they bring fans in the stands and fans on television, that's a target demographic, a target market that brands also want to reach. And therefore, that's where sponsorship comes in, of course, where a brand like AT&T or Budweiser or any of the others that we can think of pay for the rights to reach the audience that the team or the event has delivered, right? And those are multi-million-dollar deals all the way down to small figure deals and things I'm doing now in minor league baseball teams, their sponsorships, because again, sports deliver the kind of audience, the kind of target demographic, kind of target audience that certain brands want to reach. And therefore, to do that, you have to pay the rights to do that. You can't just do it for free. Well, where did this start, right? Here's a little bit of that history. Albert Spalding, name that we know today. He was the first to capitalize on the use of the word official. He thought, classic endorsement. Look at these baseball players. They're getting popular. We're on radio. We're starting to get really, really popular as a sport. And therefore, I want them to use my stuff to help me sell it, because the power of that affiliation, the power of that marketing connection, he knew was powerful and helped him sell more stuff. Then there's a point about Mark McCormack and built IMG through golfer Arnold Palmer. Got Mr. Palmer to do lots of sports endorsements, and again, brands that wanted to affiliate themselves with Mr. Palmer in the sport of golf to help them sell their own goods, right? Mr. Palmer had an audience. Mark McCormack figured a way to sell that popularity to brands so that that brand could reach the same audience, right? There's this sort of shared audience between brands or sponsors and the sport organization, sport event, or the athlete, him or herself, right? And then, of course, in the 1980s, things just exploded and went into another level with Nike and their partnership with Air Jordan that's been well documented, and there's of course, a movie about it. So, again, we these days here in 2024 think we've grown up with it, so ubiquitous, but had to start somewhere. Where's things going to go from here? We don't know. We don't know where it's going. Tiger Woods came along later. We'll talk about him. But again, sports sponsorship is the acquisition of rights through a monetary exchange. There's that word affiliation. You'll hear that a lot. Okay. Because again, if you want to affiliate with something that's popular to reach their target audience, to try to get them to take action, try to create demand with that audience. Again, what do marketers do? They create demand. That's their number one job. Of course, when you pay for the rights to reach a target audience through a sporting event, a sporting team, there's some people that want to get around that. They don't like to pay those rights, right? So they try to capitalize on that goodwill without even becoming an official sponsor. They don't write a check to try to reach that audience, right? There's a case study here that you don't need to know about, but the authors of the chapter of this particular book we're using, or I'm using to guide you through these slides, have that as an example. I would mention that something you might understand or notice is sometimes when, an example might be nothing nefarious necessarily to this, but when you ambush, let's say, the Super Bowl audience, and you run a restaurant or a bar and you want people to come watch the Super Bowl, but you haven't purchased the rights to use the term Super Bowl affiliated with your bar. That's why you have to say, come watch the big game, right? You can't say, come watch the Super Bowl at our place. People talk about it, people know what it is, but you're going to advertise that you want people to come watch the Super Bowl or the World Series or any other event, and you haven't necessarily paid for the rights to do that. That could be considered ambush marketing, as long as you do it in a way. Another way is when people, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, being at a stadium or at an event, and you come out to your car at the end of it and there's flyers sitting on your windshield. Well, that's somebody ambushing that market, that target audience at a sporting event to try to reach them without paying for the rights to do that. I've had to keep people from doing that on stadiums from teams that I've worked for. Who's Bill Veeck? He was also, again, we're talking about a little history and the evolution of why we study sport marketing as an academic pursuit. Well, first of all, we know it's a multi-billion-dollar industry worthy of that pursuit. And because I said, as I believe the main purpose of sports and sport events as entertainment exists to bring joy to people, and that's a noble pursuit. But there have been pioneers in this industry that have gotten us where we are, and we've talked about a few: Roone Arledge and Mark McCormack. Well, here's another, Mr. Veeck. his philosophy, and this is important for you to understand, is the team must provide other reasons than the game itself for people to attend and support the franchise. In other words, you may go to a baseball game, but maybe you're not there for the baseball. You had to create, his thought was you have to create as much joy and as much positive experience for as many people as possible so that you can, again, generate more revenue because they want to continue to come back, right? They had fun, I ask a lot of students, I ask you if if you've ever been to a Tulsa Drillers game, and if you raise your hand in your head, I would ask you if you knew anything about the baseball team before you went to a Drillers game or a Tulsa Oilers game. Do you know the players' names? Do you even know what league they play in? Do you know what standings what team, where the team is in the standings? You probably do not. But why did you go to the baseball game? Well, it wasn't really for the baseball, right? You went because the ballpark is nice and it's a beautiful summer evening and you love the fireworks shows and the beer tastes great and the hot dogs are really, really good. And you're going with your friends to make memories, or you're taking your family out there so your kids can play. And there's lots of things going on. The modern day ballpark, exemplified by One Oak Field on a small scale, is this very concept that Mr. Veek came up with. And every sports team I've ever worked for tries to do that same thing, right? You never want to lose focus of your core product that you're marketing, which is the game itself. But that's not enough. It maybe used to be in the past, but as you know, it's not now. Now we have 4-story jumbotron screens and music and all of those things that impact our senses when we go watch a sporting event, or even on television if we watch one. And all of those things are trying to create entertainment for us that is reaching the widest audience possible and giving us the biggest bang for our buck. We know sports are expensive. Therefore, if you go, you want to have a good, positive experience. Well, the more a sport marketer, sport manager can pack into an event like a game, the more chances are that you're going to have a positive experience and want to return again and again. We can't do anything without revenue. Revenue is big. Not necessarily profit, but revenue. If you do not have revenue, you cannot do the things you want. Therefore, you have to hit all these buttons to make sure people still want to come back. You're creating that demand because you built that cycle. You've reached the right audience. They come back, they have a good time, and then they want to return. Doesn't always happen that way. And we as sport marketers and sport managers have to understand that if the team is losing, that's when it's toughest. You got to create the demand for people to come to a game, even if the team's terrible. Well, why? For everything I just said before. Even if you're at the major leagues and the spotlight's on you a little bit more, plenty of teams lose. But plenty of teams do really, really well in the stands and the box office anyway, even though they are losing, because they've done such a good job creating great customer service and other forms of entertainment while people go there that feel like they got their money's worth, right? That's what we're trying to do. Ensure a pleasurable attending experience. So Bill Veek was a pioneer to this thought. Created conversation, used to call something called the water cooler conversation. Hey, did you see the game last night? Did you watch that game last night? We still do it. We just do it on our phones and tweeting or texting and things like that. And again, he understood that power. Matt Levine is a gentleman that formalized sort of doing research. Right now, we're so again jaded about what data is, big data, sports marketing data. Well, what is data? It's nothing but knowledge, right? It's the power to take control. Data is knowledge, and knowledge is power. It gives us the ability to make better informed decisions. That's all information. That's all data is. Better informed business decisions. And that's exactly what Mr. Levine did, which is he decided to do some intercept surveys to fans when they were bringing up the San Jose Sharks. And I thought, well, let's ask the people if they like these logos and these colors. And he did a novel thing by asking people, did customer research, and and intercept and focus groups, and they collected demographic and psychographic information. And what he found out was, by talking to people in shopping malls and heavy traffic areas, that people didn't like the original San Jose Sharks logos and colors, and he got them to change. And the next thing you knew, when the Sharks came out, their jerseys and a lot of the merchandise they sold was led awards. But again, that's all because this novel concept that maybe we should collect information from people before we make our decisions. We can't make them just inside our little office in our bubble. And now we just take those things for granted too. Does that mean that we as sport marketers and managers always do exactly what the fans say? We do not. It just helps us make better informed decisions, and we calculate, weigh all the options to determine what's the best one for our business, right? We can't please everybody. There's always going to be people that don't like what you do. Your job is to try to do what you think is best for the club. They keep it healthy, keep the business healthy, keep your organization healthy, so that you're financially stable, and you can do the great things that you want to by being so. Hiring more people, giving raises, improving your facility, all the kinds of things that you need revenue to do. So let's collect data, let's ask questions, let's make better informed decisions. And Mr. Levine kind of was one of the first people that thought of that, made a difference. Here's the marketing mix. Those that have had prerequisites in marketing may know this already, but here's the marketing mix. We all know what the product is. And what I'm going to argue here is, again, you can have the best advertising. You can reach the right target audience in the right place, in person, electronic, digital advertising. You can even have incredible prices, whether they're expensive or not. If people think that there's perceived value, they're going to purchase it. The most important thing, in my opinion, about all this is product. Because if you have great messaging, you reach the target audience, they take action, the price is good, they buy something. If your product fails, you've wasted all your effort right here. Okay. Hey, fans that I'm advertising to you on television, come to our game and you're going to have a great time. And we're doing a special price. Great. I've taken action. I go to the game and I have a terrible time. Now I've wasted all this. What happens at the event? What happens at the game? What happens at the run? Maybe the beer is hot. Maybe the ticket takers are rude. Maybe the team was terrible. Maybe the Jumbotron stopped working. Maybe you don't like country music and that's all they did was play country music. Maybe the traffic getting down, and other things that we as sport marketers can and cannot control. But the product is the experience, right? That's the core product, is the game or the event itself, but the entire product is the experience itself. And if you don't have a great product, then a lot of your efforts in these other three areas aren't as efficient. Now, conversely, you might have a great product, but you can't reach the right audience to get them to take action because you know how to reach them. Or maybe you know how where the audience is, the place, but maybe your messaging is terrible. Maybe you know who your audience is, but you don't know how to get them to take action because you don't know what your messaging is, right? You're not very good at promotion. So again, all of these are gears that have to work together. Any one of them's off. Maybe you've got know who your audience is, you got great messaging, and your product is great, but maybe you're way too expensive, or vice versa. Maybe you're way underselling it and you've just taken money out of your pocket because you haven't priced it properly. So again, all of these things make a difference, and you have to ask questions about all of them to make sure you're working in a way that they work together for maximum revenue generation and health, business health. Okay. So how do identify, right? What are ways that we identify? This is true for all marketers, not just sport marketers, but of course, we break them down this way: by age, household income level, ethnicity and culture, where they live. I know in my business, we always want to know what zip codes are people buying tickets from. What are lifestyle tendencies? We might even say, what are the trends? What's trending, right? What's hot? You have people always want to know what do people like, and those demands change over time. People's tastes change over time. There's some sports that are having trouble replacing fans because the aging demographic is aging out of it. They're having trouble replacing younger fans because there's so much more out there in terms of demand for our attention that it's harder to get somebody to stick. And so we have to know these things. We have to find out the profile of our segmentation of fan identification. And each one of these groups needs a different message. That's what's strange. People ask me, well, who's your target audience as a sports team? And I'm like, everybody. And that sounds flip, but it is, because I really need everybody to come. Now, that'd be a core, we want to reach these young people, we want to reach families or whatever. But ultimately, if we want seniors to come, we have to have the right messaging for them. What if you're a family and you want to go to something that's family friendly, but what if you're not a family? What if you're just a young person looking to go do something with your buddies? Do you want to go to a place that's like Disney all the time? No, you want to go where it's hip and cool. Well, we want sports organizations, specifically sports teams, we want to attract all of them. So, seniors can go over here and do that, and young people can go mix over here and do that, and families can go out here and do that, and all in one particular area, right? That's why we have to provide all those different options, as Bill Veek said. But when we ask people to come to the stadium or come to our event to watch what we're going to do, we have to give different messaging to different people. And that's really, really hard to do. That's how you segment. That's how you identify your fans. And that's how ideally you craft your marketing messages to get them to take action, which is supporting your organization, supporting your team. So I'm not going to make you look at that. Relationship marketing, we hear that a lot. In fact, there's lots of software. There are hundreds of different companies out there called customer relationship marketing management tools, CRMs, right? Well, what does that mean? Relationship marketing. It means that people are less transactional than they used to be. Now, I'll start to argue that this is going to swing back around a little bit. I know a lot of folks that like to buy stuff don't want to interact with humans anymore to do it. Sometimes I'm one of them. So it's interesting we talk about relationship, but maybe we can talk about relationship marketing as a relationship with your technology as opposed to people, right? It's easy to navigate and get around, right? We want to build relationships, and ideally people like to buy from people that they trust and like. So the relationships maybe not necessarily with somebody who's selling you something. The relationship maybe is a distance relationship you have with the athlete or the team itself or the method in which you engage with that team, right? How do we create enough of a connection, a relationship with our team, with our organization, that we create lifelong fans over the course of somebody's life? So we hear the term grassroots marketing and why people always try to reach youth. It's because ideally, if they make a connection, if you develop that relationship with them in some way, and they keep coming back over their lifetime, as you've heard people that Super Bowl, the Detroit Lions had a season ticket holder, had been a season ticket holder for like 60 years or something longer than that, right? And you have to try to engage with them in a way that builds that relationship on trust, which is they trust that if I'm going to come watch the team or if I'm going to engage with the team in some way, they're going to make me happy in some sort of way. It doesn't always happen, but there's something that has to be satisfactory through that relationship for them to continue to come back. And that's getting harder and harder and harder to create loyal, lifelong fans. And so teams are trying to come up with ways all the time through different engagements, loyalty programs. I mean, what company in the world, hotels, airlines, rental car companies, we all have loyalty reward programs, right? Just trying to figure out a way to keep us and hold on to us longer because there's so much demand out there and we can be so fickle. Well, sports are in that same world, trying to compete against other interests, not just other teams, but our attention for other entertainment, whether it's going to the movies or going bowling or going putt-putt or going on vacation or hanging out at the lake or working in your yard. How do I get you to take action to come see my event or come to my game? Well, hopefully there's a relationship there. You have a relationship with the team. And like all relationships, it waxes and wanes. But again, we as sport marketers, we've got to figure out a way to build those relationships through different methods to get you engaged more, to keep you coming back. That's the bottom line, isn't it? Right? So relationship marketing, these are some different skills that you may need to be good at your job. Essentially, it's just a people person job. If you're generally comfortable with people and you can build rapport with them pretty quickly. And if the team is really, really good at that, and team adopts a personality of being able to communicate well and making people feel like they're connected and attached. Really, it's about treating people how they want to be treated, right? The golden rule. I'll treat people as you want to be treated, or the platinum rule, treat them how they want to be treated. You think about that in terms of business, it's always the right way to go. I always think when I'm talking about relationships or sponsorships or prospects I'm talking to, or potential fans, I'm thinking, well, how do they think? And essentially, it's how do I think? What's going to move me? How would I want to be treated in this situation? All businesses should do that, but in sports, we better do that because people invest their emotions. They invest their money for sure, but they invest their emotions. And it's different than, say, if you're going to buy, I don't know, a yardstick or even a mobile phone, although some people have relationships with their mobile phones. So all of these things are skills you can have to help you in this regard if you're a relationship marketer. Um, don't want to touch on esports too much in this particular course, in this particular lecture. It's just another target demographic that is people who are into esports and play esports, and it's obviously a growing and burgeoning industry. And sports teams understand that, oh my gosh, now we have another competition. It's hard enough to get people to come to the stadium off their chair and into the stadium to watch what we do. So how do we reach them? But now we're competing with esports, and that's a demographic. They're in a whole nother target segment of entertainment, sports entertainment. If we were in class, we would debate whether it's a sport or not. I'm not here to do that. I just know that there are ways that you can reach folks in here through games, through sponsorships, and things like that. And it's a target demographic that is still attractive to sports organizations. One of the issues, of course, is that many of us are not watching cable anymore, right? We've heard the term cord cutter. So the point is, sport marketers got to figure out a way to reach you, even if you're moving away from watching stuff on television, right? Over the top viewer, we call it, right? Young generations moving away from cable impacted drastic on television share of total media advertising. It's splintered now. Again, there's demand coming at us all the time, and these sports organizations and teams and networks are always trying to figure out how we can get messaging in front of you and reach you and create that demand so that you pay attention to what they're doing. That's why in the football they market quarterback versus quarterback or coach versus coach or city versus city, right? We're trying to create those storylines. We're trying to create that drama that keeps us coming back time and time again. And where we deliver those messages are getting harder and harder to reach everybody because we're moving around so much. We're on our phones, we're on the computer, we may watch a little TV. Heck, I don't know, and so how do sport marketers, sport organizations reach you when you're cutting the cords and the audience are getting splintered and splintered? It just makes the job of a sport marketer that much more challenging. Which is kind of what we're talking about here. Youth sports drive viewership as adults. Sometimes it does. It doesn't always. In my experiences, those of us that participate in a sport don't necessarily make us fans of a sport, and vice versa. We may play a sport and not watch it, or we may watch a sport and not play it, right? I watch football. I don't play football anymore, right? I watch golf, but I do play golf. So in fact, most sports I watch, I don't play, and that's the way it is. So just because you're a participant of a sport doesn't make you a fan, and just because you're a fan of a sport doesn't mean you're interested in playing it. And so one of the issues, of course, is in football, particularly, is safety. That's the case, I think, in a lot of sports, not just physical safety, but of course, when it comes to young people, their emotional and psychological stability. There's a lot of bad actors out there. So next generation of fans is, I don't know, I think maybe a little bit less interested. I know I've done surveys of classes before, and I've asked students who their favorite team is, and they're like, I don't really have a favorite team anymore. I follow an athlete or I follow whatever. It's different. When I grew up, boy, I promise you I had favorite teams, and I still do. But there was less demand for my attention, sport or otherwise. Nowadays, it's so splintered, and you guys have so many choices. It's really, really getting tougher to make things stick. Now, with that said, sports marketing and sports continue to grow. Things continue to get more expensive. People continue to spend money on it. So it's a very, very powerful industry for all those reasons: affiliation, connection, emotions involved, right? Very, very powerful. So in conclusion here, marketing of sport includes unique advantage compared with traditional products and services. It does, again, because again, there's that element of connection to it that we talked about. And again, there's marketing through sport and marketing of sport. You know, sorry, free media publicity could both help and hurt organizations' marketing strategy. We didn't really talk about that too much, but you know, public relations officials and media relations officials, people are part of your communications team. You hear me talk about communications. Well, marketing is an umbrella under communications. You'll hear this as we go. Well, public and community relations people under that communications, they're just as much marketers as well. What they're trying to do is create earned media by offering stories and things like that to the media so that they get covered, so that you get all this quantifiable coverage. But it can backfire if you're popular, you've done really well, and then something happened to your team. You fire somebody, there's somebody that does something unethical, there's a scandal, that can also hurt you, right? And sport marketers obviously must understand their own products as well as innovative marketing strategies and practices, again, to reach people we need to reach, to get them to take action, to grow a relationship with them and continue to buy over and over again. That's the job of all marketers in any industry, right? You can think to yourself, oh yeah, that's true for everything. Everybody's trying to do it. It is. It's just when sports are involved, because it's entertainment and it's discretionary income, and sometimes you got to invest a lot of time into it. It sometimes makes a difference, as opposed to just buying a product that you can use and throw away, or a product that you're going to buy and try to have no emotional connection to it whatsoever, right? So it's a little bit different. And because there's so much more competition, and so many different ways that our sport is delivered to us, it's a lot tougher for sport marketers. So I have to continue to stay innovative, right? Continue to stay out in front of people to get them when they move away and go where they are, right? When we migrate off, right? I don't know how many times the last time you watched any commercials when a sporting event, no, we all move away or mute it, or we just. But every time there's a pop-up ad, or all the different places people are trying to reach us, they're always going to be trying. Sport marketers are no different. Where are they? Where's my audience? How do I get to them? Right? It's just you have to come up with those strategies. You have to be very, very innovative, and you have to understand what it is you're selling. In my opinion, what we're selling is fun. What we're selling is camaraderie. What we're selling is memories. What we're selling, the product, is the experience. It's not a football game. It's the experience of watching the football game. It's not a basketball game. It's the experience of going to the basketball game with your friends and family, or the experience of the tradition of going to your favorite college football team because that's what your family did, right? That's what we sell. We have to tell those stories. That's what we have to sell. Okay. So with that, make sure you guys read your syllabus. I have to go change a couple of things on them, but read your syllabus right now. What I need you to do is, you've got a paper you've got to do. You got to send me your list of subjects that you want to write about. And I need that list. You need to email it to me. It's a first come, first serve basis. Put them in order. This is the one I want to write about first, second, and third. And if you're first, you'll get it. If it comes in second and you're second, you'll get your second choice. But I'll let everybody know who their subject matter is after I receive it. I've got to get those in by Friday. You can start working on them now. The assignment is posted in Blackboard. Read the instructions, start doing your research. It's due April the 14th, that particular thing. So again, we'll talk more about assignments and different things as we go. And I'll try to give you as much information I can through email and posting into Blackboard. But after you've watched this, if you have any questions, again, just email me. My email address is on the syllabus, as well as my phone number if you want to text me. So with that, I will conclude this particular lecture, and say that I appreciate you coming here and watching, and we're going to try to do this again every Monday night. We'll do it live, but I'll record them and post them as well. So thanks for watching, and we will see you the next time. Bye.